What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today we're going to be going over the Null Knives Raiden. Let's get into it. So I have carried this around for a little while, spent a little bit of time with it. I wanted to bring the box back out here because I do want to show my appreciation for the packaging of this. It has a very nice box that has a pull string, so you're pulling it out and it has this wonderful foam padding. I really appreciate that presentation. Let's go ahead and bring some knives out here really quick for some size comparisons, and then we'll jump into the knife. So first, we're going to bring out the Elementum 2 button lock. As you can see, this is a little bit bigger than the button lock. You got more blade and more handle length on it. Then we're going to go ahead and bring out the Civivi Praxis, which is going to be a bigger knife overall. So I would constitute this as a medium pocket knife. I really like the size of this. It's a good EDC size, which I think is appropriate for the market that you're going after with this knife. Here we have the Benchmade bug out. It's going to be identical in length, blade and handle length. And in all honesty, when I first got this and started handling it, I thought, premium frame lock bug out. Not that it looks like it, not that it's trying to emulate it. I am saying that's what it makes me think of. It's that nice carry size, good handle length on there, good blade length on there, still down on weight, even though it is a frame lock, which I really do appreciate. We're going to go ahead and bring out the Spyderco Shaman just to show you and anyone else out there that has a Shaman or maybe a PM3, which is roughly around the same size. You can see this is more medium length, less of that full size length that I consider the Shaman to be. Let me go ahead and move the bug out of here, and we're going to go ahead and bring out the Demco 8020.5 in the camo carbon, and we'll move the Spyderco out of the way and bring out the ProTech Mordax. So you can see here, just a little bit smaller than the ProTech Mordax, not a lot. You have about the same handle length. It is just a hair longer, and you have I'd say about a quarter less blade length, maybe. This must be 3.5, this must be 3 1/4, or maybe 3.2. It is a little bit closer to the AD 20.5, both in handle length and in blade length. With this being, if I would have brought the clip point out here, which I can do, let me grab the clip point. I think the clip point would probably be spot on same size, far as length is concerned, as the Raiden. And it might even be just... Man, it's too close to call. I have to say that it's identical. Let's go ahead and take a little quick look. Let's take a quick look at the profile thickness. We'll go ahead, since I have the clip point out here for this particular comparison, we'll do a comparison there. You can see with the contoured scales that you have on the Raiden, it is actually just a little bit thicker than the flat scales that you find on the Demco 8020.5. And then the flat scales on the Elementum 2 button lock are going to be just, and I know it's hard to tell, but just a little bit thicker, just a tiny bit thicker than they are on the Raiden. All right, let's go ahead. Let me move this clip point out of the way really quick, folks. And let's talk about this knife. So, ergos on here are really comfortable. The only thing that I feel, and I love that he styled the pocket clip to make it a little bit different, to kind of, I would say, complement the curving and angles that you have on the Raiden, but you do kind of feel it a little bit in the hand. So right here for me, it's kind of poking into, let's see, let me squeeze for a second, poking right about there. So it just happens for my larger hands to land in a fold spot. So I do kind of feel that when I grab the knife. Feel it, but it is not like super sharp. It's just kind of poking me a little bit, like I can feel it's there. I have not used this for any extenuating cutting periods. I've only cut paper to test the edge, and I broke down an Amazon package when it came in just to see what it felt like going through some thicker materials, and it has a nice edge. It is not the sliciest, thinnest edge that I've felt out there. I would say it's more medium geometry. And actually, let me do this just so you can see. It's not much thicker and the black is going to make it really hard to tell. It is not much thicker than the bug out, but the bug out's flat grind comes to, it's taller, so it comes to, it doesn't come to, I'm sorry, it actually has more blade between the top of the flat grind and the bottom, whereas the flat grind here stops sooner. So when you actually feel the thinness of these two, it is, you know, barely or slightly thicker than what's on the bug out. The bug out is a very thin, slicey knife. And let me see if I can. So you can see the swedge out here on the tip makes it look like it's thinner, and the black is going to make it really hard to show up. But when you feel the thickness of the blade, it actually started with a thicker stock. So it's definitely a thicker knife overall as far as how it cuts through the material than the bug out. But it is still really slicey in my opinion, even though it has a slightly thicker stock on it. So it's, you know, it's going through the materials just fine. But coming back to the ergos, you can feel all of the angles that are on here, which look good. Like, I love the way this looks. It's got like a ramp here. It's got the bend starting here. It's got a little bit of a bend, it feels like, right here where these are chamfered or knocked down heading towards the edges here. And then you got these angles. So you got like some spiciness going on. So it's not quite such a boring run-of-the-mill design, but when you're holding it, you can kind of feel all of that going on. And again, not that any of it is a hot spot or pokey or anything like that. You just kind of feel that it's all there. Now, the one thing that I'll say is when I slide back, I almost start to fall off the knife. When I'm sliding back inside of this front angle here and I'm not trying to choke up on the knife, I land okay. The spoon probably hits the top part of the thumb, and then the back part lands on the very end of the jimping. What I would have liked to have seen on this one, and it's struggling with the black, I would have just liked to see the jimping carried all the way up to the spoon. I think that would have been nice for someone like me with larger hands, who would have had the extra jimping. But I think even with medium hands, you would have had a couple extra jumps out on the tip of the thumb if you're using this knife and you have a medium hand. But for me, when you're back here, it's fine. When you're choked up, I'm really not using the spoon at that point. Usually when I'm choked up like this and I have the finger here, which I do have just barely enough clearance for the edge of the blade, this is for when I'm doing push cuts. Now, if I'm doing detailed work or out on the tip, I actually probably can come back and use the thumb stud to get a little bit of traction here, which is a little different for me for those detailed cuts. So draw cuts, trying to get into package, pinch grip, trying to get into the package. I actually find like being back here on the knife gives me a lot of control when I need that type of detail work going on. So for me, it works okay. I will actually say it actually works good. I hang over a little bit over that, and I don't discount the knife because it's a medium knife, right? It's not a full-size knife. It's my large hands on the medium knife that become the issue there, but it's comfortable and it's got a good weight back here. Now, it is butt heavy, trying to keep it clean so I don't get any marks on YouTube. So really your counterpoint ends up being kind of back here on the middle finger, but it's okay because it works. Like, it's not balanced perfectly to where it's on that front finger. It feels butt heavy, but I like that extra weight because it doesn't end up feeling like a bug out, right? A bug out is super lightweight, almost feels like a toy, like it's going to break, and that doesn't feel like that. This kind of makes it feel like you got some weight in the hand while keeping the blade really light. The blade on the bearings is really smooth, but as soon as you let off of there, it is definitely a shake to close. It's not going to be a guillotine. So if you're looking at this and part of your equation for buying a knife is it fidgety, it is not going to be a fall shut knife. To be fair, I've had this for a week, so it's probably not completely broken in. Now, versus when it came out of the box, it has already began to improve. I could not get it to even go that far pushing on the lock bar when I first got it. And then you see there 2 regular shakes and it's closed. I'm not doing it hard. I'm just giving a nice solid shake and it's going home. I like the thumb studs on here. They have like a, come on, focus. It's struggling with the dark colors. I'm sorry. It is like a landing pad. There you go. and it has lots of little ramps going up to it, so it works really well. You can sit on top and flip it. You can go underneath and hit them. They work both ways. Same with the reverse flick. I always struggle with this angle, but the reverse flick, you can go right on top and hit it, and it'll go out just enough detent to hold it in place. It's really going to work that well, though, if you go underneath of that thumb stud for the flick. So that works really well. Access to the lock bar. Lockup is coming in at about 40%. Again, camera struggling with the darker colors. Lock bar insert is nice. I really was surprised. It looked like there was no pass-through, but there's jimping on here that works really, really well, and they did a good job making sure it was plenty of space here. The reason I say that is it works for when you want to come in, you hit it right behind the lock bar, and it'll drop down to the finger, so be careful with that. You can see it's left a mark there, and you can shake it closed. You can lay on this if you like to do the European lock style and get it to where you're bringing it to your thumb, and then you're closing it. Now, from the side closing, it's really good if you get up tight in there to the lock bar, because you can usually stop it right here where there's no blade. But because they elongated it, you still get plenty of traction for that, and it works for the pull-up. Like, there's just enough space to get the tip of my big finger in there with no issues. It's a little tight, but I mean, who doesn't like that? Anyway, blade shape works well. Nice drop point on here. You got a swedge for reduced drag. I think it would have been cool if they could have made it a little bit thinner, but at the same time, I'm glad that they didn't, because then it wouldn't have enough weight to close it. It would feel like a traditional Elementum, which you can't shake shut. Like, I don't care how much you break it in. You have to, like, bam, close it with some authority for it to close. The sounds on here are really cool too. Can't get it to shake shut. Oh, am I touching the lock bar? I think that's the problem. No, it's still breaking in though. Now, here's the thing. This was upper $300. That is some really stiff competition, in my opinion, but they're bringing some heat with the looks. Here's some competition. You got the EMP EDC Relative, which is also bringing the heat with the looks. And I love that big old in-your-face, tall, chunky style looking blade. I really like that look for me personally. Now, cheaper than both of the other two is going to be the Quiet Carry 9. Big broad blade, nice chunky handle. It looks like it's smaller, but when you look at what you're actually holding onto with this knife, it really is serious straight up competition, coming out of Taiwan for 330 bucks. That's some seriously stiff competition. Would you spend your money on the Raiden, or would you pick up a Relative if it was available, or the 9, which they do have some in stock? I actually saw where I think they had like the copper infused carbon fiber one back in stock when I looked yesterday. Now the action on here, the 9 definitely to me has the better action. The Relative is a little bit smoother, but it does have an uncoated blade too, so in its defense, a little bit different. One thing that I do want to take into consideration when you consider these are almost 400, from Riot, you also have either the Mini Evo, which is still in stock, or you can find for about $300 to $325 fairly regularly the Mini Tempest, which is around the same price point, but you're going for more of a classy look with the Tempest versus where if you go with the Evo, you might be going a little bit more aggressive. But the detent nub, right, for, you know, $50 more, detent nub, fat carbon scale inlay, you're getting a little bit more there with your money, in my opinion. So for me, I think that if they could come down, and I don't know if inflation's a part of this or not, but if they could come down to around 330 to 350, I think that's a better price point when you're considering the competition that you're going to be up against when you look at some of these other knives. Now, just really quick, if you're looking for something USA as an alternative, that Mordax that I had out here earlier, that's out here now again, I don't know why I was talking about earlier, You're getting that for $230. You're getting Magna Cut. You're getting aluminum button lock, a little bit more size. You're getting some Ferrum Forge style. And you're looking at the Demco 8020.5, which is a Taiwan if you don't like the 9. But just another alternative, right? That you're talking that you can get for roughly $300. I mean, that's some serious competition. That's something to take into consideration. You'd have to really love the way that the Raiden looks, I think, versus the competition. And to me, that makes it a little bit tougher. But I like this knife. I have enjoyed carrying it. I like the size of this. This is good form factor for everyday carry. It is going to take minimal space in pocket. Really good detent. The build quality on it is really good. I wish it was a little bit better on the action, and maybe after carrying it for a week when I disassemble the clean and oil and everything, maybe that'll improve it. But if I were spending my money, it'd be tough. But I really love that 9. I mean, for me, I love the 9 because of the style cue that it has, the action, the price point. It's a Taiwan-made knife. I mean, it's got a lot going for it, so it's really tough for any knife to compete. But that is not to take away from the Raiden. I like this. I think that the lines, I appreciate the lines and the styling on here. I would like to see the jimping going all the way out to the spoon there. I think that would be really good. You know, for larger hands, again, if you fall back into the cutouts with your first 2 fingers, it works okay for me. I think it lands in an okay spot, but if you're choking up, they're occupying kind of the same space. So for me, the choke up is really going to be more about the push cuts. I'm really not going to have my thumb out here for that. I'm going to actually choke back on this for any type of like detail work where I need to use this. But carrying that jimping out there, I think would go a long way. Love, love, love the thumb studs though. And consider making it a hollow grind. I think you really give yourself a leg up if you can manage at the same price to bring a hollow grind to the price point. I think that's where the relative has a little bit of an advantage, and I think that would really help you with the Raiden. If you gave that a hollow grind, that would be super, super sweet. But all the other attention to details, I really do appreciate. I forgot to mention, I love the back spacer. And I think this is a very interesting approach for the lanyard because it is really not taking away from the styling. I think it's a really nice option for lanyard folks out there that he did that through that back spacer. That is a really good idea right there. And I like the styling cue on the pocket clip too. I like that it's a little bit different, but it still functions really well. I would say if you could maybe just bullnose that tip just a little bit more. I don't want to take away from the styling cues. I know we're talking about function versus style, but I think it helps it a little bit if you do that as well. But this is a really cool knife. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's a little bit longer than usual. I just wanted to spend some extra time on it because I really grew to enjoy the knife the more that I handled it. And I probably will, because I started out liking the relative more than the 9, but the more time I spent with the 9 and liking the 9 a whole lot more. So I think that probably could happen with the Raiden. I think it's a cool size and it's got a lot going for it, and it's definitely something I would recommend taking a look at if you love the way that this looks. Shout out to everyone out there for the likes, the comments, and subscribing. I appreciate all the support and the love. I hope you have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.